Hello and welcome. This is the first info session for this cohort 2 recruitment with Venture. Applications open up next week, so thanks for joining us. My name is Chris Carpenter. I am the Marketing and Community Relations Specialist with Venture For ClimateTech. This, again, as I mentioned to some of the people on the call, this is a webinar. So you won't be able to speak or hear yourself right away. So feel free to drop questions in the chat or the Q&A function at the bottom part. As Jackie mentioned, this session is being recorded. I'll be sending this and the slide deck that out later, probably tomorrow morning, if not Monday. So if you register through the Eventbrite, your email is on that list. You'll automatically get this. Tonight, you'll be hearing from our Managing Director, Jacqueline Ros Amable, and our Operations Manager, Devin Sandin. So as the Managing Director, Jackie works to support New York State's bold vision to be leaders in the climate tech adoption and environmental justice industry, alongside with partners and co-creators NYSERDA and Second Muse. Previously, Jackie was the CEO and founder of Revelar, a company that built tiny devices to keep your loved ones safe. And in a prior role, she was at Techstars, where she covered all the Americas and helped elevate entrepreneurs and ecosystem builders from Canada to Argentina. So without further ado, Jackie Amable, everybody.
Hi there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Chris, I'm going to ask that you skip ahead 2 slides.
Yes.
One was the team one. The only team member who won't be joining us today is Shantae. She had a family emergency, but she's amazing. She is our go-to-market specialist, has worked in the political side of things, as well as on the lobbying side of climate, and so has helped companies go to market in New York City and land those big contracts. So just wanted to touch on her since she's not here. And oh, hey there, to know Techstars alum. Yeah, before I worked for Techstars, I did go through Techstars twice. So lots of program experience and excited to bring that into this. Next slide, please. So just as a quick heads up, this is our second year. This program existed in a different form previously. However, NYSERDA, our amazing partner and funder of this program, with the great wherewithal, decided to open up this to be global and virtual. So essentially, we take and recruit high impact founders and innovations that we believe can serve the New York State market. That does not mean you have to be based in New York. That does not mean you have to relocate. It just means that in the future, someday New York State would say, hey, this technology makes a lot of sense for our communities. You do not need to be incorporated, no co-founders required. So we consider ourselves as a very early stage program, and it is part-time for about 6 months. And I'll talk a bit more about what it looks like on a day-to-day and what that schedule is and why we set it up that way. But we recruit globally, so anybody from around the world is welcome. And the main areas we support are talent identification, so helping you build out your team. So in the first cohort, our teams went and grew about 2 to 3x. So let's say like one team, for example, Olukun Minerals came in sole founder. She left with a team of 4, right? And some capital in her pocket. And it's up to 100K non-dilutive funding. So we do not take equity. We do provide non-dilutive capital that goes with the stage, the different phases. And I'll go into that. An angel or pre-seed stage is ideal, right? So we're really here to help de-risk some of the hardest to de-risk climate innovations. And so we're looking for that earlier stage. If you're interested in New York State as a market and you're in your later stage, happy to send you some resources on other incredible NYSERDA programs or partner programs. We have a ton of amazing pipeline partners that we work with, but we focus on that hyper early stage. Next slide, please. All right, so again, at a high level, we recruit high impact founders and innovations. We describe ourselves as a combination of a venture studio plus accelerator program. Because we don't per se end with all the teams that we start with, right? Sometimes IP issues come up or something happens, and we realize that is part of the name of the game of hyper early stage. So last year we actually accepted 11 teams, but by the time we ended that, we ended with 8 teams, and we'll talk more about their incredible accomplishments throughout the program. But we'll roughly take 10 teams into phase 1. We invite 30 teams to the bootcamp, which we'll chat about later. And we do a lot of market intelligence, help you put together your pitch for NYSERDA. And in phase 2, teams are invited to come forward. We can take all 10 teams forward. We do not have to down select. And then we provide $25K upfront of non-dilutive capital that you and your team can use whichever way you please, and 10K in reimbursement, so about 35K total value in phase 2. And we support you in preparing your decks, including, getting the right design, et cetera, the messaging, connecting and figuring out what is the right capitalization stack for you, right? Which companies in this world are usually a mix of non-dilutive and dilutive capital, and we help you figure that out. And phase 2 ends with an incredible celebration and thought leadership, and a summit with our founders where they speak alongside incredible speakers. Last year, Jigar Shah and Brad Feld were our keynotes at the summit. And so our founders got to, talk alongside some incredible names in the industry, but that's sort of our version of a demo day. And then in phase 3, that's where it goes fully differentiated. So it goes from a cohort model into fully differentiated coaching. And at that point, if certain milestones are hit within a certain time frame and there's match funding with other investors, there's the opportunity for a 65K follow-on. So making the opportunity 100K total of non-dilutive capital. Next slide, please. Some key timelines to make sure you guys don't miss it. So our applications open next Tuesday. We're super excited to read about your impactful innovations. They'll close March 4th. We wanted to give people some time to be really thoughtful and gather as much data as possible to share with us. And then we do the boot camp. So the boot camp, we invite roughly 30 to 35 teams. We provide an intensive week, still only half days, but you get to meet investors, mentors, our funding partner, hear from phenomenal speakers on the landscape of climate, and really get a quick taste of what would it be like to be part of our program. And so we mutually get to know each other better. We know that it's a virtual world nowadays, but we want to make sure it's a great fit all around. Especially since, we take it as a great responsibility that we're providing de-risking capital. Our selections committee is run by our board. So if you're interested in getting to know our board members, we have a phenomenal board of leading industry experts and investors in this space. And so selection is just 2 days where you do a presentation to that selection committee. And then May 3rd, we would announce the 10 teams that we've invited back. And May 9th, cohort kicks off, and we'll go into a bit about what that day-to-day looks like. So what an average week looks like: every Monday, we kick it off with a stand-up. So I joke, right, that comes from my engineering days, but, setting goals for the week as a cohort so we can hold each other accountable. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, we bring in speakers for no more than 2 hours. So we say on average per week is about 10 to 15 hours a week, with about 6 of those hours being on either hearing from a speaker, being part of the cohort, or the one-on-one coaching. So we provide one-on-one weekly coaching, and this is where we really dive deep on what do you need as a founder? What do you need to get to market? Every company is unique, and so we really hone in on what does that group need. And what are we looking for? Particular segments of interest for New York State, right? So I really recommend checking out the NYSERDA website so you can align your application with what, their language and what they're looking for, but buildings, transportation, energy storage, smart grid, and anything that can impact the communities that are most likely to be impacted by climate change, right? I think we all saw the flooding this year in New York City, and, New York State is so much more than just New York City, but, we're really mindful of the fact that we're looking for technology that can impact those frontline communities. And we accept all different kinds of technologies, right? Hardware, software, materials, business model innovations. So we are open to a wide range of climate technologies. But ideally, right, a potential for substantial reduction in greenhouse gas emissions, a team that is coachable, driven, and self-aware, and a commitment to supporting New York's communities. We were really proud of what our founders achieved in the last year, right? Like I said, we started with 11 and ended with 8, but the founders were awarded about 4.6 in non-dilutive, meaning they raised their first pre-seed or seed round, and many of them are continuing to close rounds, so we expect that number to continue to go up. Also, they've received about $4 million in grants, and more coming. A founder closed their first pilot with a major corporate and was accepted into Breakthrough Energy Fellowship. I think I mentioned earlier on in this talk, right? We have a lot of amazing pipeline partners, so we're able to help nominate our founders, because by the end of this program, I'm able to look other investors in the eye and say, hey, I've spent the last 6 months getting to know this team and founder and building a strong foundation for this technology to go to market. you can trust that they're going to, show up, be there. So it really helps you as a founder build that track record, which can be hard to build. And also we help our founders navigate licensing, any kind of legal hurdles. I think most of our teams ended up getting free legal pro bono from fantastic firms. And so we support that process as well. And a founder's also, negotiating with one of our board members' organizations. So we're really proud of these early outcomes. Our last cohort just wrapped in November. We wanted to share some of these early wins. And the verticals we worked with in the first year were carbon tech, cooling and HVAC, fintech, hydrogen, materials, transportation, water, and wind. And so like we said, we're here and willing, and NYSERDA is able to support a wide breadth of companies. Keys to strong application. Be specific. Hone in, right, on how you can help New York State, hone in on your technology. The more information you give us, the easier it is for us to understand what you're working on. And don't be afraid. Everybody has competitors, so let us know who's out there, right? That helps validate that there's a market. I think somebody once told me that when I was building Revlar, if you don't have a competition, you may not have a market. And be yourself, right? Like, we got to spend 6 tremendous months with our founders, and the more we can get to know you and more we understand you and your personality, the better. So please be yourself. Okay, wanted to open the door for Q&A and see what questions you all might have. We'll give you all a second.
Yeah, you can drop them in the chat, or if the Q&A function should be working. I also have the ability to unmute people. So if you find that your question is very wordy, I can maybe cut down some type time for you.
Feel free to raise your hand too. So that way Chris knows.
Yes.
I don't know how you know who's raising.
Digitally raise your hand.
I'll leave that up to you. Yeah.
And Jackie, I guess. Yeah,
yes.
Actually, that's exactly what I was going to dive into, going over the funding again. I think
yeah, that was fast. So we provide up to 100K in non-dilutive capital. Because we don't take any equity, we do break out how we give that capital. So if you're accepted into phase 2 of the program, which is about a month and a half into the program, right? You give a presentation to NYSERDA. We've been able to validate sort of all your, whether it's IP or business model, or say like with confidence that this technology makes sense and this team makes sense to take it to market. You get a grant of 25K and 10K in reimbursable. So the 25K, we are able to give us a clear grant. You can do it as you please. Most of our teams use that right to, order parts for prototypes, whatever it is. And then the reimbursement, right, it has to be specific to a business case. So let's say you need to pay a graphic designer, or you need to do something, you let us know, or you have to pay a lawyer for a legal piece, right? You send us that receipt and we're able to reimburse you up to 10K. So phase 2, I would say, is like 35K in non-dilutive capital. And then phase 3, there's the opportunity to hit 65K in follow-on funding. So making that total funding opportunity 100K. And that is also non-dilutive. We do not take capital, but there we're looking for clear market interest, right? So there you have follow-on funding with match investors. So that way we know, hey, okay, you are closing a round, right? So to give an example of that, right? I think we had all of the companies that have raised, they're going to have access to matching dollars. That's non-dilutive. So that we're looking for market interest and to know that you're ready for that. Yeah, the last 65K is if you have matched capital. And again, it's all non-dilutive, which is why we have to be very cautious with how we break that down, because we want to make sure that it's going to de-risk the most things possible. So we're looking to help de-risk and to de-risk those mechanisms. We also hope it works and has helped sort of as not a carrot for investors, but letting them know like, hey, if you invest 200K, that actually goes a lot further than you think.
So one of the questions, Jackie, was from Tanya. Can you I'm jumping up from Sam B, was talking about smaller companies. Is the program open to existing smaller companies, existing product in the market, but looking for the benefits of a program like ours?
Shoot us some information. I'd have to understand a little bit better what that means. Like if you're a company that's learned some great lessons and you're sort of looking for a refresh, sure. But otherwise, there's probably other NYSERDA programs I can guide you towards. It might make better sense if you're already further along. Again, we're really hoping to de-risk and help fund that early stage. And I saw another question.
Yeah, can you give some examples of why a team had to discontinue the program due to IP or something similar?
Sure. There was a team, we absolutely adored them and the founders. Unfortunately, they lost the rights to their intellectual property. And so at that point, right, it was a massive step backwards because they were going to have to start from, kind of figure out what to do or where they would go from there. But they knew they could no longer continue with the product that they were planning originally on taking to market. We helped that founder connect with IP specialists. We helped that founder, in the conversations with the corporation that they were originally licensing that technology from. We actually think now maybe we've got them in a good position, but at that time, it was very evident they were not going to be able to move forward. And then therefore they were sort of stuck. And so we wanted to, they were sort of mutual conversations around like, hey, we know this stuff happens. Let's help you navigate and figure out how to go from here and come back if anything changes.
The next question I have is can matched capital come from a grant or a company contract?
It has to be from a private investment. So angel or a round. So, either you've closed some sort of private capital. Usually with either at this stage, usually it's either with a group of angels or like a micro VC or an early stage VC fund.
Well, and Devin got that one too.
No, not grants don't unfortunately count as that private capital because that's just we do provide grant writing support. So we leverage different programs. So we have access to NYSERDA's DxO candidate matching, grant writing, and EIRs, which all provide support in either helping build out your team, get access to paid EIRs by NYSERDA, or even get paid grant writing support. So while we provide up to 100K non-dilutive capital, there's all these other resources, whether it's a pro bono, legal, et cetera, that end up saving the teams, probably another 50, 75K in the time they are with us.
Let's see.
Tom Mills, looks like, or Tom Mills, you have your hand up. Do you have a question?
Yeah, all right, Tom, you are on the air. I think it shows that you.
Hi, how are you? Can you guys hear me? I guess I'll find out.
Yes, there you go.
Hey, how are you guys? First of all, thank you. Thanks very much for the invitation. The invitation kind of came in over the transom, as I'm sure it did for many others. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. Quick question, and first of all, the really basic question is, you'll be able to share this slide deck, perhaps, or be posted to the folks who are attending?
Yep, this and the slide deck and the recording will go out to all of you. All of you got emails and whatnot too. So if you signed up and got this through the Eventbrite, go ahead and I'm going to send it to the same exact list, or just email me. You can also find it, and I'm going to put it up on the website so you can be able to access it that way too.
Okay, terrific. And we are actually part of an existing incubator program now. We're alumni, I guess, of an existing of an incubator program, Bethesda Green. But we're kind of hopefully taking sort of a quantum leap this year. And New York State is a big part of what we could be doing. So I guess it's really down to the particulars. We can tell you what we're doing, and you can say, yeah, maybe not, or tell us more. So I guess that's what we'll do. But is there any particular program on the NYSERDA site that we could look at in addition to these slides to see, sort of what the goals are? Because I would assume, it's a state entity, state energy R&D organization. They're looking for jobs and help for the, New York ISO would be helpful and all that thing. Anything on the NYSERDA site we could look at?
Sure. The Our goals align with the Climate Leadership Community Protection Act that passed in, I want to say 2019, correct me if I'm wrong with that date, Devin.
Sure.
But essentially our mission is to help support those very ambitious climate goals for New York State.
Yeah.
So again, our program, because of the sort of very early stage nature, we don't have any expectations of like moving to New York or opening offices. Some other programs do have those requirements, right? But ours does not. Because we're really looking on just sourcing and supporting the innovation that we think could have this massive impact. And again, because of the early stage, like we're able to help de-risk those really, those early tricky hurdles and help founders break through them, whether it's finding the right talent, which is, anybody who's, recruited for talent knows it's time consuming and tough to find the right person.
Oh, yes.
Or getting access to the right investors and mentors and things like that can move the needle, as well as, making introductions to different corporate partners and things like that. So it really depends. But we, if you just came out of an incubator, that's probably the right stage.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. And Tanya, I think I did understand your question. So maybe you were saying like, is it acceptable if like my plan is to outsource part of my product team? I would say absolutely. My product team. So I had what I called my hybrid team. I had part of my team in Colorado when I was building and part of my team in Thailand where we were manufacturing. And my investors and my board were used to refer to it as my hybrid team. So I'm a big fan of, finding creative solutions in the early days to make technology building, especially software, more affordable. So let me know if that sort of hit on your question, Tanya, but and if you don't plan on seeking private capital, no, that's not an issue at all. That's just more has to do with those matching grants because we need some sort of market answer to that. But no, I mean, if you have a software business and you're able to go straight to market without raising capital, awesome, right? Definitely would be interested in learning more about those plans. And hopefully the non-dilutive capital we can offer would be, supportive of that mission. But no, I've always worked with, multicultural hybrid teams, and I'm very comfortable continuing to do so. So also happy to, in this program, we help our founders figure out what is that right mix of team, where should they be based? I say it's a brave new world now of the virtual, right? So as long as people are willing to work the same hours, I think that's what really matters. Yeah, it's a tough one. I happen to love building teams. It's like my favorite thing to do, but I know it's a tough one. Tanya, I think you got put, so I don't know if you wanted to say something else or had another question.
Yeah, feel free to unmute yourself, Tanya. I just wanted to, it seemed like you had a lot of questions, so if you're to save you from typing. Or great, I say.
No worries, thanks, Tanya. I hope I'm saying all your names correctly since I'm just reading them.
I think a common question too, that Jackie, maybe you can talk more on while people might be thinking of other ones, is just diving in a little bit more to the New York State lens. I know you said that eventually some point down the line, like they have to use it, but that's one that I've found that a lot of people get hung up on. Like, is it like, does your product have to eventually be used in New York State? Do you have to do business? Is it just like saying that you have interest in it, or what? How does our team like separate that lens?
That's where I really recommend diving into the NYSERDA website, seeing some of their goals, perhaps, or seeing some other examples, right? Like we had this one company in our cohort last year, right? They're quite literally our moonshot, right? They're known as New Frontier Aerospace, phenomenal team. They were one of the most unique teams I've ever worked with, right? Like everybody was Blue Origin or NASA or Air Force, and they are building hypersonic flight airplanes essentially that can get you anywhere in the world in 2 hours, and they're doing it in a way that is carbon negative. So they're, their sort of thing was the way in which they're going to get fuel and the way in which they're going to be able to rely, their technology in order to be carbon negative had a huge role in actually had incredible ties to like the agricultural parts of New York State, and how some of those byproducts would be converted into clean fuel and things like that. And so I think if you really take a second to think through what is the impact of my technology, what are the communities these serve, right? There could be a wide plethora of answers, right? Another company we had, which was a software solution, essentially helped, it was a fintech product, and they help everyday people become part of the climate fight by allowing them to invest in these projects like community solar and things like that. Right. So there was really a wide breadth of companies that we can support. And they were all able to make the case of like, well, if we get funding, if we get support, if we're able to get to market, here is the potential impact. Here's why New York State might be interested. So I would look at the whole of New York State, right? Is it the agricultural? Is it the community solar? Is it buildings or homes and helping those transition, right? So, and a lot of the technologies that could apply for New York State apply for, many parts of the country, if not the globe. Right. So I think it's, take a few seconds to check out this website, see what, could potentially be a great fit. But those are the things that I talk about that I would recommend looking into. Let me see, we100graphs.com, or into SaaS building. It seems like it's Dan. I'd love to learn more based on what you put there. But yes, if you're able to help prove, essentially if you're able to articulate your greenhouse gas emission impact, right? That's what we're looking for, is you can start to articulate it. Throughout the program, we actually pay for all of our companies to get hands-on coaching and support in calculating their impact. So that we work with the Pollution Prevention Institute, and they pair with our companies. So by the time that our founders exit, because right, how many investors in the space are like, well, what's your, show me your sort of your math on your impact. Every founder that exits our program is able to say, hey, not only do we have the math on our impact, but here is another organization that has validated this, and we went through this process with them. So that's one of the things that our program offers, because we know how critical that is to speaking to customers, for your own desire to know your impact, as well as for being able to articulate that to potential investors. So we do have that partnership with the Pollution Prevention Institute, and it was really effective for our founders in the last year.
Next question was, what was the project that enabled community members to invest in projects?
ClimateTize. They used to be called Seeds, but now they went through rebranding, and so they're called ClimateTize. Thank you, Jay. Glad you could join us, and no worries. I will count to 10 Mississippis in my head and see if there's any more questions. Otherwise.
This is a great group. A lot of really, really thoughtful questions. So thank you, everybody, so far. These have been great.
Okay, I think I don't see any more hands raised or any more questions.
Yeah, let me drop, Jackie, I can put your email in there right now. I have the general email that goes to me, whatever you all want.
Feel free to put my email in there. Again, applications open this Tuesday. Applications will be live on F6S. We use that platform because hopefully if you guys ever use it, you'll use it again and again as a founder, because many competitions and many programs use that platform. So applications will go live. So please, if you could also send the information, Chris, for signing up for the newsletter, so you can stay in the know of what we're up to. The sooner you can put in your application, the more thoughtfully we can review it. Last year, we got 660 some applications. I think 200 of those came in the last few days. So the sooner you get your application in, the easier it is for us to ask more meaningful questions and get back to you. So thank you all so much for taking the initiative and reaching out sooner than later. Really grateful to have you all with us tonight. Looking forward to hearing from all of you, and best of luck with your applications. We hope this was helpful. All right.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your night, and we'll hope to hear from you soon.
Great. Bye, everyone.